Raise your voices for the team's choices as we get into our third and final game.
Mine was better for sure.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it is.
Would you like to say it?
I would. I would very much like to say it. Let's do bans and picks for all you dudes and chicks.
That's not what this says.
That is literally what it says right there.
That's not what this says.
I wrote it down. I just have messy handwriting.
Flashpoint with the first selection.
I'm being slandered.
Merlin gonna be
Unbelievable.
Merlin banned out here. And across the way, Jana's going to be banned out as well by Outcold Gaming. As far as these picks and bans are concerned, no surprise really here.
You good?
No.
All right, you take a break, buddy. I got it for a minute here. We can just, here we go. Arthur, the other ban for Flashpoint, as expected. And again, Alquang, the other ban for Outcold, as expected.
Which is rough because, I mean, we see the Daji play, and honestly, so I maintain, I think you do have to ban the Alquang against Johnny, but the problem is he's going to do it to you anyway.
You were so good for like 3 sentences, and then it
Well, no, now I'm laughing at the absurdity of Johnny's God
Yeah,
pool.
he's really good.
Like, real talk, very seriously, you are throwing me off a little bit. Hold on.
Nothing at all.
You ready?
Yeah.
So, as we get into it, I think it is important to ban the Outquang here. But the God pool for Johnny is absurd. I mean, they banned out Outquang, and then they banned out 2 more hyper carriers, and he's like, Daji. And goes 15, 4, and 9. I mean, how do you, and I mean this in sincerity, Ryan, how do you stop this man?
You have to really spend your whole team fight worrying about Johnny.
Yeah.
You have to keep track of him, what abilities he's used, what relics are down. And Half Devil and Dimmy in particular and Frostyak need to be very, very attentive to when Spudio and Prime are saying that Johnny's on them and they need help, because you kind of have to make someone else beat you. And that's the problem when you're going against Flashpoint, is that the other players will beat you. Lots of teams have tried to just ignore everyone but Johnny and see what they can do, and it usually doesn't work out too well for them. You need to strike that balance, and that's why it's difficult to do. It's why Flashpoint has a very good record.
OCG with their first round of the picks. Freya, Nashan, Bologna. That is a strong draft to say the least. And right away back to the bans looking at Johnny. No Mercury either. So still taking a shot at that. And still probably the right move. Now, do you leave Flashpoint? Do you ban out the Daji?
It depends on what Prime wants to play. If Prime's playing this Freya, you don't need to ban out the
That's a really big point.
because you don't have to worry nearly as much about him jumping on you. You've got Banish, you've got Valkyrie's Discretion, you've got way more ways to immune that dodgy damage. So it really is dependent on what we expect Prime to be playing. And I think that he probably will end up with this Freya in the mid lane. You want to give your best player the best opportunity to win with the top characters. Yeah. And I think that anytime that Freya could go ADC or mid, I would expect it to go mid just because that's where Prime is playing.
Well, a lot of jungle bans here. Kali actually banned out by Flashpoint themselves. Outcold Gaming looking towards the Serket and the Mercury. Naja still likely to be in the hands of the support player, so the Hera going to be banned out. Flashpoint not convinced that OCG is going to play Freya in that mid lane like you are.
Yeah, it's just a pick that Prime has done pretty well with, and that Polymorph creates a lot of issues for Johnny, who likes to be playing these very aggressive junglers that like to go blink level 1. Polymorph really shuts him down pretty well in those instances, so I don't mind the Hera ban. Erlong Shen is a good pick here because it keeps the draft open still for Outcold and makes it so that Prime really gets to look at the entirety of Flashpoint's draft before he makes his selection on his god.
Flashpoint going to round out their draft again with the Daji. It looked great last time, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. We're going to see Johnny on the spot one more time with Daji and the Powwow, and Flashpoint finally finishing up their draft with a Terra. So an interesting Terra support most likely, but maybe even some flashy Sun Wukong.
I like it. It just brings more control, and you need to have other beads burners on your team to make Daji as effective as possible. I think this is a totally fine pick. Raijin is interesting here. This is a more aggressive team fight option, but more passive in the laning phase. So we'll see if this pays off and there's enough AoE damage here for Outcold in order to make Flashpoint fall.
Well, we'll see if Daji can do it again. This is the end, friends. Let's get right to the action. Game 3.
Yeah, no matter what, someone's coming out on top. Flashpoint or Outcold, we're about to find out. And Taco, I want your thoughts on these drafts. So far, Outcold looks pretty good to me. Relevant at every stage, and characters that are good at taking care of themselves if they have to. This seems like a solid draft they got.
A nice even flow, I think, that can really synchronize pretty well. all within, I think, 2 to 3 man pairs even. I don't even necessarily feel as though Outcold have to be in a 5-man grouping
I agree.
to really benefit off of their current composition. So I definitely feel you on that one, Finch. But Fusify blinking in right now with the Spudio, just looking for the autos.
Yeah, just looking to punch a little bit. Has the walls there as well, as Fusify continuing what he did last game on the RDO, just this time it's on the Terra. And I don't know if it's worked quite the same way it did on the RDO, as the ring bounce gets the slows and quite a bit of damage, so Half Devil immediately aggresses in, and that should spell early pressure now for Outcold. Meanwhile, Flashpoint are largely the same as what we saw from them before, right? Johnny back on this dodgy. Sibby plays yet again the Sun Wukong, Fair Creek on Agni, and Kaspainify got the Shibalanke back, so they're looking for more of the same.
Fusify is largely only looking for Spudio, though, and it's not even really paying much mind to the wave, and that could end up costing, no, it will end up costing Flashpoint, I think, their first purple buff spawn. Outcold Gaming's dual lane, all too happy to go and clean that one up, so Half Devil and Spudio now with a slight experience lead over Kaspainify and Fusify. And it's a really interesting start when you think about it, taking the blink first on the Terra as opposed to a more teamfight-oriented relic like the Sprint, Horrific, maybe even a Shell.
It's just what he's been doing, though. So that the only reason I'm not surprised is because it's Fusify, and he likes to play aggressive like this. But I agree, Terra is already so good at team fights, you'd feel like you'd want to accelerate that. Maybe blink Earth and Fury is the call, right? And he'll be able to set up the team fight, hitting everyone on the other team with it. But we're still a ways from that right now. Right now, it's blink into basic attack.
Hey, one thing's for sure, Johnny's not trying to stick around for that percussive storm after the pin from Frostiak hits, so Flashpoint forced back to their T1 tower, and the mid-jungle pressure that I think Frostiak and Pretty Prime provide right now for Outcold is also what's allowing Outcold to kind of play a little bit more aggressively in the side lanes, because it's not like Johnny is going to leave standing underneath the mid T1 tower for farm to go and attempt to gank a side lane when his side lanes are losing.
Kaspainify's taking quite a bit of poking. Half Devil wants to keep up the chase. He doesn't have an aggressive relic to shell, so likely Kaspainify can just walk right on out of there, but it was certainly close. I think that, though, they're in a good spot. How do you think Johnny's going to do this game as compared to last game? Because last game he did at least have Prime, who didn't really have any escape options to go in on, but now Prime's on this Raijin who can save the Thunder Crash to disengage. Spudio can go up into the air, even has the Banisher himself. There's some decent self-peel tools.
I just think that we're not going to see Pretty Prime as the focal point anymore. In Game 2, we saw Johnny all over Pretty Prime because he was Zeus. He didn't have a way to really run away from Adaji other than to sacrifice his relics, but since Pretty Prime now does have the CC immunity with the Taiko drums,
That's right.
I think that we can expect to see Johnny maybe looking to force Taiko drums too soon before the fights really begin, or even getting Spudio out of that Valkyrie's discretion. It could cause some serious problems, though, for Frostiak, and that is where a large part of the focus is probably going to be geared towards, because the Erlang, realistically, the only one that Outcold could catch out.
That might be the target, or might be the call then, is to switch targets, what we saw in Game 1 as Johnny goes towards Oracle, not paying mind to this dual lane just yet, though the pressure has already been established by Outcold, so some relief might be nice. As Pretty Prime backs, and instead of working on the boots, completes the boots right away. He has that extra cooldown and some extra mobility now.
I'm also going to double down on Frostiak being the target point here,
I think you might be
simply
right on that.
because of the fact that Half Devil's on this Ninja support. And I think that if this game goes long enough, Flashpoint could then take advantage of the fact that they've got a true front line between the Sun Wukong and the Terra in comparison to Dimmy, who's kind of being forced to do it alone again, I think. Half Devil's mostly going to be the initiation factor. I do think it's fairly interchangeable, though, between himself and the Bologna, but either way, I don't think that Frostiak can really afford to build full tanky. Otherwise, Pretty Prime and Spudio are just going to have to be the sole damage dealers, and since they're both magical, that could be complicated.
It could potentially spell some trouble, as Flash won't have the option to build quite tankily into them in response, though. You know, things like Spear of the Magus, Soul Reaver, I mean, these feel like good options, Obshard, for burning away some of that protection, so maybe it won't be too bad for Prime and Spudio, even if Flashpoint double down on those procs. We'll certainly get a chance to see as Sibby, looking to try and strip away the buff, has some help coming out from Johnny. Eagles Rally stuns both, and now with the extra protections, Johnny has no choice but to go up in the air, drop multiple chains, and pull both back in, and that sets up first blood. Johnny gets it, though a great rotation over from Prime trades it back 1-for-1.
Sibby barely just making it up into the somersault cloud in time. Pretty Prime trying to weigh it down the Tycho drums, but he'll be waiting for a while here because the Darkest Night's going to be more than enough to get Sibby out of danger.
Finally comes through from Crispanify, who hits level 5, and Sibby able to disengage in that. So a 1-for-1 where it's Frostiak traded out for Johnny has to favor the guy that got first blood, which is Johnny in that one as Beads comes out from Ferrocrick.
1,000 burning cuts, man. That is potent. And
It is.
when you're sitting inside of all that dot damage just ticking away at you, only so much to really be done because Frostiak did have to use those beads rather early on just to get out of that initial Tiger stun.
Half double considering a sash there, but it doesn't land, so fortunately he doesn't get pulled into 3 members there, as he certainly would have been. But that's the aggression from Johnny and from Sibby here on this Sun Wukong that he's clearly comfortable on. He went for the aggression on the blue, and the fight right after is Fusify has to use his ultimate in that jungle skirmish.
Demi wanted the rotation here, but Flashpoint already too wise with the disengage. Probably could tell that trouble was looming because of the way that Outcold were positioning themselves, making it real easy for Demi to start flanking, but hey, can't flank what's not there.
I wonder if Fusify is the one that started that fight, because his blink's on cooldown. Maybe he tried to blink to start an initiation in the jungle, but like you said, Outcold perhaps sensing that there was some trouble nearby, and so they got right on out of there in that one. So it'll be a while before we see that aggression from Fusify again without a blink or without an ultimate. He'll have to slow his roll a little bit. And there's no particularly vulnerable target. Maybe Frostiak, another 40 seconds without beads.
It is a possibility, but it will be tough, I think, to burst down Frostiak in time before Outcold has a chance to respond. I mean, one of the main reasons why I think Flashpoint has to play a little bit slower to start is because the wind-up time for Ferrocrick is going to be a little bit longer, I think, in comparison to Pretty Prime on the Raijin. He's just got Percussive Storm, and even with the CDR boots, I'm pretty sure Pretty Prime's going to wind up committing to this Book of Thoth Rush again, and that's going to bring a lot of damage with it.
It certainly will. Ferrocrick's going to try and match that with his full CDR build that we saw him go last game, right? The Chronos Pin almost certainly coming in next, and he'll be at that 40%.
It's spam versus burst.
That's what, yeah.
That's really all that Ferrocrick is trying to even things up with. And Sibby could probably use a little bit of help over here in the solo lane because Demi has just been abusing this matchup, just relentlessly pushing into this Wukong.
You a spam fan, Taco?
Sometimes. I think it really all depends on which god.
No, I mean literally like the canned meat spam.
I've done my fair share of spam meat.
Is it a military thing? I feel like it might be a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily the ex-army life or anything like that. So much as it is just, you know, sometimes you're just balling on a budget, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
Right, we weren't
been
always
there.
dripping that Gucci at Worlds, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, you ain't always been there, right? We used to be living that spam life for a little bit, but it's Frostiak, or Ferrocrick rather, living a very different spam life here in this game once he gets that Chronos Pin and finish. So maybe he'll resonate with that one a little bit.
I think everybody has to at least open up a can of spam in their life and just watch it fall out.
Gross, Taco. No, I know what you mean. We've been there. What about some Vienna sausages? Is that you?
That's how you know the OGs, but right now,
Half Devil.
focus all onto Half Devil. That little bit of sustain might have just saved his life here. Sankyep, you said, the Fusify, who's still on the run.
Tycho drums, pulls him right back in, and Prime completes the kill. But Johnny not done yet, but I don't think he knows Frostiak is right here. He won't be able to complete the kill. Johnny goes down as well, and that's 2 quick kills for Outcold to put him up 3-1.
And Flashpoint looked a little bit lost there even inside of that engagement. It really felt as though Johnny was just so all in onto Half Devil that by the time Half Devil manages to escape, the mid lane engagement that Pretty Prime brought to life, it was just too much to handle. All those cooldowns having been expanded onto the Najaan that just barely manages to squeak his way out of there. I mean, that could not have gone worse for Flashpoint.
No, it couldn't have. Unfortunately for Johnny, falling on the back end of that engagement too, and then also Fusify getting caught out. They just couldn't lock anybody down, as you said, Taco. Outcold, the ones that come out on top. at least on the back end of that first engagement, though things certainly not out of reach. A little over 1,000 gold favoring Outcold so far. And the totems have been fairly even as well. I just wanted to check and see how much that lend itself to the lead, but not really that much. Flashpoint has been trading back and forth.
3-4. It's just been how much poke does Sibi really want to take from Dimmy this go around. And as you saw in that last Totem of Coup, I think Sibi's sole purpose was to just try and claim it for Flashpoint, but Dimmy put in a pretty decent chunk of health taken away from Sibi there. And that's the risk you have to take as a Wukong, I think, into this Bologna matchup.
It's difficult, man. Bologna, I really do still think is a strong pick, and we don't see quite enough of her, I don't think, over there in the solo lane. She loses very few matchups in lane, can always feel comfortable trading, and then in teamfight, she's so good against all these auto attackers, as Half Devil's found himself a target. It's Fusify early on, right into the Taiko drums, and there's just nothing he can do. At least Earth and Fury comes out onto multiple people, but there's no way for the rest of Flashpoint to capitalize off that.
Pretty Prime is just one-shotting everybody right now. He's got his Book of Thoth online. Frostyak trying to do what he can to see if there's more to boot, but instead he'll wind up eating the dust, but Pretty Prime will at least make sure to return the favor onto Johnny.
Well, as you said, Frostyak's the target. They just couldn't do it cleanly enough, and Johnny ends up dying as well. Ferricrick at least gets away from Half Devil on left-hand side by these mid-harpies, but it just took too long for them to eventually kill Frostyak. I think Johnny missed those first two chains. That might be part of it, as Spudio reminds Kispanify who the Freya is here.
And this is right around the period, I think, where Flashpoint should start to recognize some of the sustain from Outcold as being problematic. And if you're Flashpoint, what I'm hoping to see is a early Brawler's Rush. I already know that Johnny's building into this Blackthorn, possibly even the idea of putting this on hold, but the health and mana a little bit too favorable, I think, for Johnny to want to do that. So someone needs to start prioritizing the anti-heal, though, whether it's Farcrick or Johnny. I don't really care. I just know that it needs to happen, or else this Erlang and the Freya and the Najah are just going to get out of control. Even Dimmy, with just the Berserker Shield, is able to deal so much work against Sibi.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't hurt Farcrick too much to go for the Divine Rune this time, especially because Half Devil's trying to... He's going a little greedy. He went with the Ankile in that slot, right? Instead of a traditional, maybe, more support item. So he's looking to be right in the middle, it looks like, the hybrid build for the Najah support.
I have to assume that Half Devil bought on Kile so he could interrupt Fusify, because Farcrick's going to be able to proc that on Kile no problem from a range. So
that's not a bad call.
You almost have to wonder what is the real bang for your buck in this type of situation for Half Devil, and I'm just not completely sold that on Kile is it, but hey, he did just find a nice pick on Diffusify a couple minutes ago, so might be a method to the madness.
That's right, the Galaxy Brain is there. We did just see that Ankile proc come through, but Diffusify had no trouble leaving. Spudio is so low. I know Johnny's had some trouble, but you still just can't afford to be close to him. Aegis buys him time. Johnny has to go up to the air, so Fusify is able to get him with some help from the chain. Prime low as well, but look how much time that ultimate buys for Johnny to reposition. He's locked down by Frostyak in the end. Prime is low, and he's able to get away too, so it's 1-for-1, Hunter for jungler.
And don't forget about Dimmy Eagles rallying right into the heart of the backline there from Flashpoint. Almost managed to catch out Farcrick had it not been for Sibi playing Interrupt, but Fusify hoping to get a cleanup kill onto Frostyak, but it's an Erlang versus a Terra. We all know who wins those.
Slow is there, but the stun was better from Fusify. That sets up Sibi for one more kill. Timmy with the hammer beats him down. Kispanify, a distant memory under the pressure coming out from Dimmy on the Bologna, but a double kill for this Sun Wukong, chases him down, and all of a sudden Frostyak in some trouble as well. Sibi is able to find a triple kill in this fight with the cleanup, but now Prime's here.
And Sibi's just got to run. Take what you can get, and that triple kill is more than enough gold in the pocket. Sibi's going to have a huge back and buy the next chance that he does head back to base, but more importantly, it's the signs of life from Flashpoint. It really did seem as though Spudio managed to delay just long enough for Outcold to turn the engagement into their favor, and that was extremely well played from Spudio. Don't get me wrong here. I know that he ended up dying in the process, but the amount of time that he survived, I think, really caught Johnny off guard, because you could tell that was the most forced powwow he ever had to do.
He absolutely had to go up into it and nearly ended up paying for it, but he bought almost as much time as Spudio did on the backside of that engagement as Farcrick in some trouble. This is a great find from Half Devil to grab him, take him up to the air. The Taiko drum's right there waiting, but an Aegis and the Earth and Fury in response. There's that silence proc coming out from the Unkeely, and it absolutely did shut Fusify down that time, so hey, maybe not so bad.
If it works, it works. There wasn't really anybody looking for follow-up damage.
That's a fair point.
But Half Devil right now, wishing that he had a getaway, might be able to find it within his teammates. Sash is good for a moment, but Sibby's got the chase down. I think that's even better.
He is going to chase him down and beat him down with an auto attack, so maybe, yeah, the Ankile proc was nice in mid, but not so much when the actual fight started, as Spudio's forced to the Valkyrie's discretion right away. Still has beads, though, if Sibby continues the chase.
And this could be trouble for Flashpoint, but it could also be trouble for Outcold Gaming if Sibby continues pushing in to the back line, not letting Pretty Prime and Spudio be a participant of the fight.
Demi has Shoguns already, so he's shrugging off these Agni bombs. Good job avoiding the stun, but the protections are there either way. Demi forced into the thorns as Fusify dead to rights, way too far back there, and he ends up falling to Frostiak 1 for 1. Support for support when you remember that Half Devil died way back at the beginning.
Demi just doing it all right now, though, for Outcold Gaming, and could possibly even be a Gold Fury attempt. Frostiak is here, and Erlang Freya is definitely a lot of damage to have against this objective. But it doesn't seem as though Outcold are interested. Probably wary since a huge team fight did just end up happening. A lot of cooldowns and relics expended from both sides. Outcold probably just wanting to wait until Frostiak's got those beads back up and running so he can avoid the powwows out of Johnny. Something else we haven't seen from Johnny, by the way, is the instant cancel off that powwow. Sometimes you can be fast enough even to stop them before they get a chance. Well, right now, all of Outcold trying to stop Sibby dead in his tracks.
Yeah, I don't think Sibby was expecting to get this caught out. Much tankier than we saw before. He lasted a good while, but it just wasn't anywhere near enough. Fusify at least is able to find a nice stun onto several members there. That might have been Faircreek really with the bombs, but it's not going to be enough to get him away. Demi keeps up the chase, and that's 2 quick kills in favor of Outcold yet again. Faircreek had the stuns, but they just were not enough.
Really well played, though, from Faircreek to save the life of his hunter. I have no doubts in my mind that Demi would have just kept chasing and very likely killed Caspanify. Right now, Flashpoint, they don't want to let this Gold Fury go for free. Outcold actually peeling off of the Gold Fury. They want the fight.
Yeah, and Half Devil just can't stand up to Johnny. It's too much damage coming out from this Daji, and the chain is there onto Demi, so he'll get pulled back in, saving Caspanify, but now can Johnny get away? It's so much extra speed from that 1,000 cuts, so he is able to keep on moving. Blink still available as well. Trickster, Spirit, look at all this mobility. Johnny should be out. Caspanify might actually be in some trouble now, but no, they're gonna lock down Frostiak too fast. Spudio wants to find some return damage, but the jukes are good. But right up into the Valkyrie's discretion. They stuck around too long.
A little bit too long. I think that Johnny and Caspanify felt like they could take on Spudio, but not when Pretty Prime's right behind him. But it doesn't even matter. Sibby's had a chance to come back now. And keep in mind, Sibby died at the very start of this, so you almost have to wonder if maybe Outcold have overstayed their welcome and should have just committed to that Gold Fury to begin with.
Maybe so, as Gold Fury now being looked at by Flashpoint. Fusify is coming in to try and zone, but with Demi and Pretty Prime here, and Prime having the ultimate, there's plenty of room to contest, but Flashpoint that secured the objective just barely. Now for the disengage. Fusify able to dash right out, but Half Devil lands the sash. That's going to make it way harder for this tank to escape. And at this point, they have to give up their support just to grab the objective.
If Fusify is the only one dying, though, I'm shrugging that off as Flashpoint. If Fusify is still going to have an impact in the fight, the second that he presses forward, that Terra's Blessing, it just creating so many different openings, I think, for Faircreek to work with, because no one from Outcold wants to stack on top of each other for the damage procs that could follow. So it's definitely not an easy situation that Outcold have found themselves in. Just like that, Half Devil still on the retreat.
And he's just taking too much damage as he's Windfire Wheels defensively. And the chain lands! The chain lands! You're coming right back over here, buddy! Sibby takes him down, but a huge two-man talk comes out from Frostiak. That puts Caspanify down in a critical condition. He has to dash away as well. But Demi not done just yet. He keeps going right through the Faircreek stun. Sibby low as well, and I think Flashpoint now need to find a way to disengage.
Demi is just a real-life raid boss. As long as he is there, no one from Flashpoint has any hopes of pushing back. This Bologna is just running the map right now, and Outcold more than happy to follow him up.
Frostiak eventually chases down Johnny. A huge pick he's able to find. The last bomb from Faircreek is out of range, and Frostiak makes it back out. So now a nice fight for Outcold. They both lost their supports in that one, or rather they also lost Johnny on the side of Flashpoint. So that's a nice win for Outcold, but they really can't do much with it here, Taco. They can't afford to go back to FG, so they have to give it up.
But T1 Tower is gone. That's a little bit of map opening here for Outcold to work with. It's also part of the reason why Frostyak can afford to go so deep against Johnny and escape, because he doesn't get caught in between the T2 and T1 towers. But also, I really like the way that Outcold kind of just saw their gap and they ran with it. They did not hesitate, just full-on commitment from the team off of the initiation from Dimmy, and I think that's exactly what this Outcold roster needs to continue doing, is just whoever Dimmy is attacking or aggressing into, chances are that all the focus is surrounding Dimmy, so you have your pickings of who you want to aggress into that's trying to help peel Dimmy away.
But who is this game favoring as it goes a little bit later? We're across the 21-minute mark, and we should be beyond the laning phase for sure at this point into the mid-game, but really, I mean, look at Ferrocrick's damage, right? He has all that cooldown, but he isn't hitting particularly hard at this point, and that's going to start coming as he builds more and more pen and power to this build, and the tanks are going to keep getting tankier. Does this not favor Flashpoint?
Oh, it's definitely going to start favoring Flashpoint, I think, if the match continues progressing in this fashion, because it's a lead, sure, for Outcold, but not a significant enough lead that Flashpoint can't just stalemate the map and buy themselves time off of their structured defenses. Because the T1 tower, I mean, you're not really caring too much if you lose a T1. It's 500 gold, a little bit of map space opened up. But what you're really after is the objectives.
And look at that. They're making half double the target every time. He can't stand in underneath the pressure. He finds one to take up into the air that gets him out of trouble, but Johnny goes up onto the powwow. He's got two with the chains and waiting to pull him back in because Spainify needs help. Frostyak sits on top of him. Nice roots, and the turnaround comes through. Fusify finds him quite quickly, and another fight that looks good for Flashpoint.
Half Devil might have escaped, but trading out your jungler instead is probably the last thing Outcold wanted to see in the process. T1 tower being looked at now from Flashpoint, and Fusify leading the charge.
A teleport coming back in. That means Dimmy is going to be right at the front line of this fight, exactly where he wants to be, and he's picked. Caspanify, the finger point comes out. I want you, but big stuns from Ferrocrick slow him down. Dimmy won't be able to find another way back in, and just like that, Flashpoint have to give up.
That tower's on its last legs, though. Half Devil going to meander his way over to that red buff. Caspanify hoping that no one else would be following, but he did confirm the red buff back into favor of Flashpoint, so no more invades, at least from Outcold, to worry about. But that initial breakdown, Finch, I love that you highlighted the fact that it's Flashpoint looking at Half Devil. And you asked me earlier, who does this favor as the game goes later and later? And we both are kind of sharing the same sentiment towards Flashpoint, but the main reason for me is honestly just Fusify. He's died 6 times. Nobody cares. He's still Terra. He's still going to be able to just burst forward. It is as simple as that.
I would take the impact this Terra's given for sure over the impact from this Najah for sure.
And that's where I have a lot of issues with this Najah pick now, where it almost feels like a trap for Outcold to throw Half Devil onto it, because after a certain point, I just think that Fusify is going to be so damn tanky. It doesn't matter who Half Devil takes up into the air. It's all about, can Outcold even burst down the front line?
And you see the difference from Sibby in this game versus game 1, where I criticize this very same build path, but he's been able to stay much more relevant experience-wise, so he's able to make up for some of that difference by going all this HP and hybrid, and it's worked out hugely for them as Johnny goes up onto the powwow, but it's the backline that needs some help, because Spainify forced to dash away and already forced to use the Aegis much earlier on. But Prime in some trouble too. Johnny trying to trade his life out, but that's a good sash coming up from Johnny. That slows him down.
Prime barely going to wiggle his way on out of there. It's not over just yet, though. Sibby going up into that somersault cloud. Now the Flashpoint that was just on the retreat is looking for the collapse.
Spudio in some trouble, and he will fall to the damage from Ferrocrick. Now it's Half Devil isolated, rooted, burned, and booted. Caspanify finds that kill as well. Half Devil now in the ground, and that's 2 coming out in favor of FP. And they can keep pushing right into this tier 1 tower. Why not? There's really no one here to defend and come right on over to some objectives. I think so.
Pyromancer essentially free right now. Pretty Prime doesn't have the Taiko drums, and even if he did have the Taiko drums, I doubt that he's interested in trying to contest. It's a nice thing to have for Flashpoint. They get 2 kills in the process. Johnny nearly brings down Pretty Prime on his own, and this
So
is something
close.
that I think Outcold also have to be really wary of, because we've seen a lot of Dimmy, Frostyak, Half Devil chasing out the carries from Flashpoint, but then who's left to play defense for Pretty Prime? This man has just been trying to do it alone, and after a certain point, that's just not possible against the Daji.
It's going to be so difficult for him. He only has one Thunder Crash, you know, and I know it's crazy I'm saying it about an ability that's strong, but it just doesn't get you out of there all the time from Johnny, especially if he's able to use that blink to initiate. He'll still have his own Trickster Spirit with which to follow. And Dimmy, this could be a bit of trouble for him. Without Johnny here, they don't burn him quite as quickly, but this is all free poke, especially if they can disengage safely off this. Faircrick is able to find a stun from max range, and that means Eagles Rally has to come out defensively, and Johnny still wants to go in right into the Palau, and Dimmy gets burned and punished for being in the right lane.
This is trouble now for Outcold, however, and they don't seem all that persuaded to back
Look
off
at
just
that
yet.
damage.
Nice Raiju spread
Goodness.
as well from Pretty Prime. Farcrick's incredibly low, and Frostyk's thinking about going in here, but he's going to get spotted out by Johnny. Just burned and turned on. Frostyak didn't even get a second chance to think about whether he could disengage or not, and still, Flashpoint wanting to push into Outcold.
And that's certainly makes some sense, right? Only 3 members up. Ultimates are all there, but look at Spudio. No beads and no Aegis. I'm sure Flashpoint are aware at just how vulnerable the Hunter for Outcold Gaming are, so they should continue to press the issue. They don't have Palau or their best ways to punish, but if Faircrick can land any kind of stun at all, I think Spudio's dead.
Love this. Pretty Prime does still have the Taiko drums available. Could possibly look to push everybody from Flashpoint back. Instead, it's going to be Johnny under fire of his own accord. Half Devil and Spudio in the mid lane, but Pretty Prime just holds fast.
I'm honestly surprised that Johnny ran from that. It was just Half Devil that came in to aggress onto him, right? I mean, yes, Spudio was nearby, but right now, Johnny beats Half Devil. If Rock beats Scissors, Johnny beat Half Devil.
I am not going to disagree, but at the same time, Johnny probably looking to play it safe rather
Sure.
than sorry. And I think Johnny also wasn't fully committed to being in mid lane, or maybe even looking to try and punish Pretty Prime, because if Pretty Prime had actually stepped up underneath that T2 tower siege, I think we definitely see Johnny head on over to the soul lane again to look to try and bring down this Raijin. But I love that play from Flashpoint. They could have even looked at the Enhanced Fire Giant after getting 2 picks on the Half Devil and Spudio, but decide otherwise, and instead just went for the tower, because the more map pressure they open up now, the more problematic it is for Outcold to try and contest on the objective.
Blink in from Spudio. Remember, there's no relics really available for Spudio except for the Aegis. And Fusify couldn't force those out. Now it's Sibi's turn to aggress in, but the response is Dimmy and Half Devil aggressing onto the back line of Flashpoint, and Caspanify faring not nearly as well as Spudio has so far. He's been forced to leave. Dimmy will settle instead for the fight, but Johnny has been able to track down Spudio. They could not keep their Freya alive. Faircrick drops the Aegis, that buys him a moment, but Frostyak has a pretty good taunt.
Farcrick doing everything he can. Pretty Prime doesn't
Good
even
turnaround.
realize that
Yes.
the Agni's right behind him. Now Sibi and Johnny looking for the collapse. Fusify going to bring down Frostyak, and it is just absolute mayhem inside of this Enhanced Fire Giant pit. Dimmy trying to do it all alone. Scott Half Devil to back him up. One
at that
goes down,
sustain.
and it's Johnny.
Dimmy can keep going. Look how much he's tanked up and how much damage he's put back out in return. His presence was huge so far in this fight. And between Fusify and Sibi, they don't have quite enough damage to bring them down. They need Caspanify to work his way back into the fight as Dimmy brings down the hammer yet again. But Caspanify now here, Root now landing, and things about to look a whole lot worse for Outcold.
Dimmy trying to stay alive for as long as possible. I don't even think that that was an auto onto
the bola.
Dimmy. He was so low that the break off of the bola was able to do the trick. But that whole engagement, Finch, saved by Dimmy.
Yes, I think Dimmy has had quite a set for himself. And I don't think there's been any question about Dimmy's performance so far. Outcold are 1-4, and it's hard to place any of that at the feet of Dimmy so far. But this set in particular really has felt like he's turned it on to another level for me. I've been so impressed by his performance. For me, this is what it's always been. It is how well is Half Devil playing this game. And game 1, he played out of his mind, and Flashpoint, or Outcold, excuse me, won it. And game 2, he had some struggles. Game 3, there's been some struggles. And because of that, they're a bit on the back foot.
Outcold really have not looked the same as they did
Nice.
in game 1. Half Devil's trying to make it happen again, though. He's found some good sashes and some decent Windfire wheels, but I think that the main problem, without a doubt, for Outcold right now is just the fact that they don't have someone who can peel for their carries in the same manner as Fusify is babysitting Farrakrick. He's babysitting Caspanify, and it's working because Flashpoint have Sibby and Johnny to just heckle the rest of Outcold.
Right, and I think that the other problem is that Outcold's dive potential isn't as strong. Johnny represents way more of an individual threat than Frostiak does on the Erling at this point. As Half Devil in some trouble, they lock him down quickly, but Fusify pays for it with quite a bit of his HP. Sash lands, but now comes Farrakrick with quite a bit of damage, and Frostiak having a hard time standing inside of all of it, but Fusify getting quite low as well. Tycho Drums comes out, and they'll use it to confirm the kill onto the Terra.
Johnny trying to find what he can, but it's Farrakrick and Caspanify left alone with Dimmy, and they'll serve him right up. Eagles rally did come crashing down. Sibby just gonna blink right on top of Spudio as well. Quick cleanups, and Outcold are just getting dismantled one by one.
They've turned this fight around quite well. Dimmy couldn't hang in the 2v1 on the back end when he got blown up as Johnny takes down Half Devil. Frostiak, I love the optimism, my man, but Johnny finds him as well, and they recognize why worry about tier 2 towers. We've already got an exposed Phoenix and a nice wave pushed up on the right-hand side. In fact, Taco, this could very well be game in favor of Flashpoint. What a set this has been, and they could close it out right here.
Yeah, that is a fat wave, Finch. This is not your standard minion wave.
Couple of C's on there, man.
There are so many minions. It's like an army of archers.
And they're going to use those archers. We will block out the sun, says those minions. And Flashpoint have done it over a very impressive looking Outcold. They grab the set 2-1, 31 minutes, 22 seconds. And man, this team's looking hard to beat.
And Flashpoint, I mean, they're top of the charts for a reason. They have been doing a fantastic job in the European Minor League, really making a name for themselves again.
Hey,
Again, by the way.
here's how I check this out. Is Johnny still on that team?
Johnny is still on the team.
Yeah, then they're going to be hard to beat. I think that's about the only check that I need to particularly go through because he just so often plays that well for this team. I don't know how you slow him down.
This has definitely been a really consistent split so far for Johnny, and I don't even think he's doing it alone anymore.
No, not at all.
Everybody from this Flashpoint roster is stepping up at some individual period throughout their sets, and it's an awesome thing to see. But this is just a team that's looking like a well-oiled machine because of the synergy that these guys have established through all their years of playing together.
Yeah, Farrakrick was like a nice bass player back there, just constant Agni bombs with that max CDR running through. So you're right, certainly not a one-man show coming out from Johnny, but with a lead singer like that, those are some pretty nice tunes. Let's get it back over, though, to the desk. I want to hear their breakdown.
Sometimes you just got to dance, right? Great job coming out there from the boys on the side of Gianni on the spot. Great stuff. Ryan, help me out.
Flashpoint just continues to be the better team. Against everybody they play against, they just seem to be the better team unit. Yes, Johnny is usually the forefront, but this is a unit that works very, very well together. On the other side, I mean, Finch and Taco were saying it towards the end of that cast. It seems like so far where Half Devil goes, Outcold goes. Game 1, he played great, and Outcold looked great because of it. Game 2, he struggles towards the end game. They lose because of it in the end game. And then that game just... You can't be bottom of the player damage charts, even on Naja's support. You need to be doing a little bit more in this game, and Half Devil just wasn't able to bring it. I'm
in love with the terminology that Finch used. I think it makes a lot of sense. Johnny is absolutely the guy. He's going to be the one with the ball in his hand, so to speak. He's the lead singer, but the other 4 players around him create space, do the damage necessary for Johnny to kind of end things and get that final kill. I mean, everything kind of falls into place, and as you illustrated after game number 1, I believe, it's like, yeah, you can just either focus Johnny and get killed by Farrakrick and the Hunter, or you can just forget about Johnny and don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that one. So surprised that you really love the music reference. That really caught me off guard. Civi in this game also looked very, very good on the Wukong. Good bounce back performance from him. That triple kill definitely set Flashpoint up for a lot of success. Wukong is one of those gods that you see triple kill pop up, but it's not like a Kali or something like that where you're like, oh, now we're in actual serious trouble. It's just like, man, now the Wukong's big, and there's really not a lot that I'm going to be able to do after it. I mean, he's just one of those gods that is nearly impossible to peel.
Wukong is, I can't remember which player described it to me, but a very strong solo thing described to me. If you're ever just trying to annoy the opposition, you get Wukong. His abilities are always up. They're always disruptive. He's in the middle of everything, and rarely do you go 7-2-12, but when you go 7-2-12, it's because you've enabled your teammates to do so much. And look at Johnny, 8, 8, and 10. Not his best performance, but still pretty damn good. And again, we're talking about it, right? If Johnny's the lead singer, Sibby's just the bassist, and well, this was Red Hot Chili Peppers.
He was playing very well. All of Flashpoint really was. I think the Gibalanque winning all 3 games in this set is very telling. That does do so much at this level to really disorient and disrupt what these teams are trying to do. I do think that if you're Outcold and a fan of this team, I think that Prime having a really, really good set all 3 games is something that's very encouraging to me, that he looks like he's starting to return back to form, because they're going to need him if they want to claw themselves out of this incredible hole they've dug.
Yeah, it's really it's uphill battle here for Outcold Gaming for sure. Flashpoint on the other side, I mean, this is a team that for a long time we kind of just, are they real? Are they real? Are they real? Right here, 4-1-5. That's pretty real.
Yeah, now up to 5-1 as we get the real-time graphic update.
That's hot. That's so sick.
Love to see that. Flashpoint at 5-1. Queso and Simplicity now knotted at 3-3. Truly, completely tied because they have the same plus-minus in games as well. And Outcold, man, really, really far behind right now. We keep bringing it up. I'm sure we wouldn't bring up this many points about the lower teams, but they're Outcold. They deserve it.
Yeah. The middle 2 teams, though, I wanted your honest take. Queso versus Simplicity, very, very similar power levels on these teams, but 2 very different approaches.
Yeah, I think that Queso. It's no coincidence that Queso dominated both games today, sub 25 minutes, with a mage in mid and an assassin in jungle.
Yeah.
I think they overcomplicated things for a week. They had a good comp that worked against Outcold that was weird and did all these strange things, warrior in mid, all that kind of stuff. And they're like, yeah, we should just keep doing that. And then they get spanked with it, and then they go back to what they can do, and they find a lot of success. It's not a coincidence. I think both of those teams can be very, very potent.
I agree. I really like watching this minor league right now. I think it's a lot of fun over here in Europe. A lot of big names doing little things, and old school players coming together. Just a lot of reasons to stay tuned to the minor league. We've got a couple more matches. Stay tuned. We'll be right back here on the Smite Minor League.